they would expand across this initial spooky idea. So eventually Bespooked became the idea that let's do these cold opens. They're only a few minutes long. There's lots of sound design in them often, and you get just a little bit of a tease. You're not committing yourself to writing a whole movie or writing a novel. You just get the opportunity to say, here's a great idea. Let's make this into a short story. And the thing when you say, what gets into Hollywood? Well, the first thing is, it's got to be something which we can do with sound. If it's something visual, then that doesn't help. It's impossible in sound. And this is something which was so intriguing when you contacted me, saying that your audience is people who have, who are either partially sighted or completely blind, that this is, you have to tell people, you can't just imply it, you have to state it. And actually, in doing my research, I went all the way back to listening to Orson Welles, who back in the day, I mean, he's passed away quite a long time ago, but he was active in the era of radio before movies were that popular. And he would do these great dramas. And all he had was a couple of actors. He had, I believe, an orchestra with him that played the music live. And then they had a guy doing the sound effects. But some of the stuff, it was so simple. The story was so clear, but you always had to tell the audience one way through something or something else, via sound effect, via music, or actual words spoken by the actors. This is what's going on, because you can't assume people do not have the ability to see a cue from your storyteller. It all has to be from sound. And I think that's the point where we started getting into the idea that, okay, it has to be done via sound. And from, I guess, a bit of a selfish point of view, it's like, okay, we have a studio. We have a lot of plugins. We can do a lot of special effects. Let's find something that's genuinely interesting from a sound perspective first. Obviously, the story has to be good. Otherwise, it won't work. But let's have something where the sound, we can really get people immersed into this. And I think for podcasting, it's a little tricky because some people do listen while they're commuting or while they're doing something else. We really want people to be able to, focus on just the sound. Put headphones on, block out the rest of the world, and just like let sound be the only sort of stimuli to you, and let us tell you a story, and we're going to tell it with sound. And that's basically what we do. Right now, what we've done with our scripts is that we ran into a problem where a lot of the scripts that were being submitted relied on some element of visuals. And we would point this out to the writer and say, like, well, if we didn't want to do a narrator style thing where someone just talks about stuff, in the sense that it was a very dark night. For us, that does like, well, we have a huge collection of thunder, of rain. We have all this stuff. Like, we don't need to say that out loud. There's no point. And so the final thing which we did was, and it relates largely to the X-Files opens, is that we became dialogue driven. So instead of having the narrator, we were just going to have things spoken by music or spoken by sound effects, in the sense that we're going to convey this information to you, but we won't say it out loud. If you listen, you will understand. If you hear rain and you hear thunder and you hear that you're in an open space, you know you're in a forest. We don't have to say the forest was dark. So at this point, what's happened is we've had some stuff which we've had to we've gotten good stories, and we've had to really rewrite them to fit our format, where we don't want the narrator, we just want dialogue. So how do we get people to tell you things without it being too much of a narrator role? So the challenge we're facing right now is we are open to submissions, but so far the ones we've gotten, it feels a bit awkward when we have to tell people, you know what, based on it being pure dialogue, and so many people are used to having a narrator element in their sort of written novels, that we have to come back and say, that doesn't translate to what we're trying to do. Can we work with you to make it work such that it works in this format? So a bit of a challenge, but I think as we've only got 4 episodes out, so we're kind of new to the thing. I think eventually we will be able to have people submit and understand, okay, this is the format, they want dialogue. I cannot rely on a narrator to do stuff, which I think for some writers, they enjoy the challenge. I think hopefully your listeners would perhaps consider submitting some stuff as well.
And by the way, before I give myself a plug, how would a listener of Aaron's Opinion reach out to you? This has been, I got to say, this is the 103rd, I believe this is either the 102nd or 103rd episode of Aaron's Opinion.
Wow.
Everything. There you. Well, thank you. you got. Let me tell you something. You got to stick to this. You can't just take off for Halloween. You got to stick to it, man. But if a listener to Aaron's Opinion wanted to get in touch with you for any reason, how would they do that?
Well, they can just get to us via our website, which is bespookedpodcast.com, and just fill us a note through the contact form. It'll get right to me.
Easy as that.
Easy as that.
And what if? Easy. And I'm someone, as I said, I'm someone who's blind. I love horror. I love telling stories too. What if I wanted to be featured on one of your stories as one of the voices?
Sure, we would. Well, the thing. Well, I'll be honest. I'll be completely honest with you. For your audience, which may or may not. I mean, maybe this is where everyone does it, but you communicated with me largely via voicemail. And initially, when I heard the voicemail, I heard something in the background that sounded like someone queuing a tape. And I listened to something very quickly, and I realized you were listening to my message to you played back at, I guess, double speed, maybe even 3 times.
Oh, that must have been voiceover. Yeah, right.
Yeah. And I remember thinking, because your voice memos always seem to time out to 59 seconds. I guess that's the limit of the thing. But I don't think any of the messages you sent me, you were cut off mid-sentence.
Because I time it with my finger.
I know. Because at some point I was thinking, there is something seriously wrong here. How does he know that it's coming up to 59-second limit?
Oh, well, I have usable vision, so I look at the clock and time it like that.
Okay.
And then I remember my sentence and interrupt myself just to push the button and then keep the sentence going in the next one.
Okay, mystery solved. Yeah, one of the reasons I really enjoyed your voicemails was because I thought he has a nice voice. He could be quite useful.
I would be honored. I will certainly, I want to end this episode and then I'll tell you something else. I do have to get going. Well, okay, everybody from around the world, I am going to be posting this episode right now, but I just want to say we from Aaron's Opinion, we want to wish you a very safe and very happy and please, 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 a very healthy, keyword healthy Halloween 2020. Please be safe. Please be happy. And of course, please be spooked. As I, of course, always like to say on my podcast, and I'm sure you will be back on this podcast. You're always welcome here. Have a good day today and a great day tomorrow.